around my story.
My life has taught me that each one of us has more than one face. And there are faces that are much worse than our nightmares. My name is Susan, and the story I will tell you needs to understand my reasons before judging me. When I was in school, I was one of the celebrities that all the kids wanted to be with, including Josh, one of the school bullies, who was obsessed with me and tried to get close to me in every way. But I could not, because I had always rejected him. But also, this was not my reality, which I hid because my family was very poor, and I was embarrassed to show them to my friends or to anyone. And at that time, I became in relationship with my friend Max. And Max was one of the boys that I could call the idiots of the school because he was very mean, and the rest of the students were surprised that I chose him. And despite this, all the students, even the bullies, including Josh, were afraid of Max and could never get close to him, which was strange. The days passed, and I left Max. I left the city with my family, and our financial conditions turned from bad to worse. And one day, when I was leaving the university, a young man in a very cool car stood in front of me and smiled at me without speaking before introducing himself that he is Max, the school friend. He searched a lot until he found my address. Yes, this is strange, but the splendor of his car and the surprise of the situation made me forget everything, and then we became into a relationship again. He was very rich, and his house was like palaces. I was not mainly interested in knowing the source of this money because I knew that Max's father was rich since the school days, and this is not strange. But over time, I noticed his strange behavior. I became sure of my suspicions that there was something strange when I found a large quantity of drugs in one of Max's bags. At first I hid that, but at some point, I told him what I saw and that I knew he was a drug dealer. At that time, he was very calm and told me that each one of us has something to hide, and this was my truth. I was just a girl who had been lying that she was someone else all her life. But I couldn't bear this situation, and that's why I called the police. They came to Max's house and arrested him and his men, except for a group that managed to escape. They gave me a big financial reward because Max was one of the most dangerous wanted drug men, but I lost Max forever. Of course, it was not true love, but this does not prevent that it caused me great pain. I decided to leave all this and go back to my family, but I did not find them and received a message. My family was kidnapped by Max's men, and they asked me to come to a place on the outskirts of the city if I wanted to see them again. Everything collapsed in my mind, and I felt like I was in a nightmare, and there was no solution for me other than to listen to their words and go to that place. There, Max's men came out to me with my family in handcuffs. For a moment, I was about to cry, but I held on. Immediately, the shooting started between the police and Max's men, as I told the police what happened and they were hiding in the place. At that time, a bullet hit my brother. The gangsters were arrested while I broke down. And I met Josh again, the school bully in the past, who was then one of the policemen who arrested the gangsters. The bullet that hit my brother caused his death, and I lost one of the closest people to me. But Josh never left me after that, and I got back in this ordeal. At that time, I made sure that I was stupid when I rejected him a long time ago and chose a fake face, just as I was fake too.
I'm Joe, 18 years old. I don't know when and how this year passed, but all I remember, it's the worst year I ever had. I'm the only son of a successful businessman who was always involved in all my decisions. He even sent me to live with my uncle and his children to be in the same school as his partner's daughter Maria. They agreed in the past that we'll get married, and the partnership between them becomes greater than work and interests by being one family. Of course, I refused in the beginning, but as usual, my refusal or my approval was not necessary for him, and although I strongly objected to his decision, the next day I was on the plane. I arrived at my uncle's house very sad, but their welcome made it easy for me. And at school, after I saw Maria, I will not deny, I liked her. She's a beautiful girl, and she has all the characteristics that any young man could look for, although I know her since she was a little girl, but I haven't seen her for 3 years. But I had only one obstacle: Marcus, the handsome young man who had a distinguished personality and was very confident in himself. Maria liked him, and they always stayed together at school. At first, I thought they were just friends. After a while, I found him getting closer to her, and Maria almost didn't deal with anyone but him. They always sat together in the school restaurant, and they went out together, and they were always laughing. One day I felt it was over. Marcus took my place, and this is a difficult thing to allow. I had to take a stand, but every time I tried to deal with or get closer to Maria, I felt that she rejected me. When Henry, my cousin, saw Maria and Marcus together in the street, and they were holding each other's hands and were very happy, he came to me and said, "Your chance is over, and you won't be able to attract Maria." Of course, I got nervous and told him, "Who is that, Marcus? Are you kidding? It's impossible for Maria to leave me and be with Marcus." I said it with all arrogance, although I was sure that Maria really loved him and that my chance to reach her heart became impossible unless Marcus was no longer there. At the time, I was thinking about how to get rid of Marcus being around Maria everywhere. Albert told me that I have to act before missing the opportunity. I left them and went to my room thinking, what should I do? Although it was very clear that the handsome German young man, Marcus, with his elegance and charisma, was the one who captured Maria's heart from the moment he came to school, my future and my whole life's success were linked to my relationship with Maria. There was no solution for me except that I try to reach her in any way, whatever. The important thing is I succeed in the end. I got tired of thinking and decided to sleep. As soon as I arrived at school in the morning, I moved quickly and went to talk to her. At first, she was talking like in the days when Marcus was not in our lives. And suddenly, the first time I told her that we are far away and we must be close again, and that she doesn't share anything with us anymore, I found her looking far away. I turned to see what she was looking at. I found Marcus approaching us. I looked at her again to complete my words, but she left me and went without telling me. I was shocked and fixed in my place, trying to control my nerves so as not to hit Marcus, but I couldn't. And when I started moving towards Marcus and Maria, Henry, Albert, and Carter noticed and moved toward me quickly and stopped me. I tried to get him out of the way, but I couldn't. Then they took me and left the school, and at that time I got a call from my dad. I couldn't answer it at the time and turned off the phone. When we returned home, we entered my room and he called me again, so I had to answer him. And as usual, his short calls were 2 words. He told me that after a week there will be the annual celebration of the founding of the parent company of his group of companies, and that I have to come with Maria so that he and her father will set the date for the engagement. And of course I heard and I didn't know what to say. We ended the call, and this was the first time he made a short call that didn't have any feelings to be useful for me. And after I calmed down, I got up to break anything and everything in front of me. Harry told me what happened. Calm down and tell us, and we'll act. I calmed down and told him that everything is over for me, my life, and my future, which depends on the presence of Maria in my life. And all the plans that he has been making for a long time will be lost because of me. I will be the failed son of a father who spent years building his empire because Maria preferred Marcus over me. Albert suddenly said, "We have to get rid of Marcus." I said, "How?" He said we'll try to make him a problem in the school and expel him from it. And that's how we got rid of him. And of course, no one will know that we're the reason. I told him, I agree. What should we do? Carter interrupted me while I was talking and said, "This will not work, no matter what the problem is. We will not be able to expel him from school because Marcus's father owns the largest percentage of shares in the school." And after we had found a solution to get rid of Marcus, it became clear that the solution would not lead to problems for anyone other than us. We all sat silent and lost hope. It's just a week, and everything will be lost for me because of Marcus. Henry suddenly said the quickest way to get rid of your enemy is to accompany him. We have to get close to Marcus. We all shut up and looked at each other, and I told them, but we have to move according to an exact plan. And none of us make mistakes in anything. In a moment, I had an idea. There will be a car race in 2 days, and we must convince him that we'll participate in it, as if everything was ready, arranged, and waiting for us. Albert said, and we'll benefit from his participation in the race. What will you benefit from if you win against him? I told him. Who said I would beat him? The idea is that we put pills and different types of drugs in Marcus's car on the basis that he deals in them, not just drinks them. And this is the reason he'll be in prison for no less than 10 years. Of course, Maria did not wait for him all this time, and her view of him would be different. And no one objected to the idea, or even his conscience alerted him, even for a moment, that there was a problem. How are we going to put these drugs into his car? This is the hardest point. Albert said there's only one way. We'll tell him about the race tomorrow, and tell him we'll all go check and fix our cars, and that he will come to us. And there I will know how to put the pills in a good place in the car. I interrupted him and said, in the right time before the race starts, we'll report the police. But our movement in the race will be very normal, and I hope no one shows anything about it. We do not want the plan to fail in any way. Indeed, the next day, we met Marcus as soon as we entered the school, and we talked to him. He agreed that he would participate in the race, and we agreed that we would gather after school and go to fix our cars at Albert's shop. Albert's friend. We arrived at Albert's shop. Henry, Carter, and I took Marcus and sat on the side to distract him from Albert by showing him pictures of the prizes we had taken from the past races. After Albert finished his mission, he came to us and said, "Come on, let us all take a ride as a training session for tomorrow." Each one of us got into his car and we moved. I deliberately drove at a high speed to see how Marcus would behave, and also so that he would know the competition tomorrow will not be easy. And that is how I guarantee that his high speed will serve us in the police chasing, especially since he doesn't know what's going on with him. I don't know how my thinking was criminal in an organized manner, as if I was born criminal. And the strange thing is, while I was thinking about all this, I was very happy. And I did not feel that I was destroying the life of another young man. He had no fault except that he was better than me, because at least he knew exactly what he wanted. We went home that day as if we were returning from a great victory, and excited about what will happen the next day. And the awaited day came. And Albert, Henry, and Carter and I got ready and went to school this day, and the smile did not leave our faces. As soon as we entered the school, we found Marcus standing with Maria. He smiled at us and raised his hand to greet us. We smiled at him, and Carter said, "Come on, let him say goodbye to her. It's the last day in the life of freedom for him." We all laughed out loud. The decisive hour is near. We finished school and went back to the house getting ready. Each one of us put on our racing clothes and went out. We arrived at the place of the race. Marcus was there before us. We greeted him and got into the cars. At this time, we informed the police of all the details from an unknown number. The race started. In the beginning, I was ahead of Marcus, and the rest of us were close. And the rest were close to us. And then I let Marcus lead in the race. And in a short time, we found the police appeared on the racetrack. And of course, we opened the way for them to reach Marcus. Marcus was driving at a great speed at the time, and he could not comprehend or understand what was happening. Every time the police cars approached him, he moved away and increased the speed until a police car cut his way and stopped in front of him. The officer got out and asked him to get out and search the car. Of course, Marcus didn't refuse. He didn't understand what the reason was, so he stopped close to the car to see what was happening. A police dog approached the car, got into the back seat, and took out from under it a large black bag wrapped with brown sticky tape. Marcus was shocked by what he saw, and of course, he realized that this meant imprisonment. So he got into his car at great speed and moved to flee. And of course, the police quickly chased him. My cousins and I were standing at a short distance watching what was happening. And at the time when Marcus escaped, we also walked behind the police to see the last shot of our victory when they arrest Marcus, and that the obstacle between me and Maria no longer existed. The strange thing is that Marcus was driving at a crazy speed. And suddenly, something happened that I didn't expect. In the beginning, I was close to Marcus and the police cars, but because of Marcus's crazy speed, the distance between us became great, but also we kept getting close and seeing what was happening with our eyes. But suddenly we heard a loud explosion. We got a little closer and got out of the cars to see what was going on, and when we looked from our place, we saw a terrible fire swallowing the car. We looked at every place, not finding Marcus's car, and all the police cars standing close to the car that exploded. It turned out that Marcus's car went out of the way of the race and turned over more than once, and this was the cause of the explosion. We all thought the same way, but none of us could say what we were thinking. At this time, we heard an officer saying quickly, "Bring the fire extinguishers and control the fire," but it was useless, and I kept screaming and saying, "I'm the reason!" Carter and Henry tried to calm me down, and Albert was not moving from his place. I tried to push them away from me, and I fell to the ground while telling Marcus, "I'm the reason." We all broke down, except for Carter, who was able to control the situation and his feelings. He helped us each get into his car, and we moved after he spoke to Albert so that he would come and take my car and take it back because I wasn't in any condition that would allow me to drive and go home. We had to move quickly and get away from the scene of the accident before the police saw us to ask us why we were there. We all went home, trembling, not realizing what had happened, and I refused to believe what we saw was true. The idea that I became a murderer. Yes, I did not kill by my hands, but the reason is my greed that led to Marcus running away from something that he had no guilt or relationship with. I'm the one who planned everything. I'm the reason. I'm the reason. I kept screaming and saying that. And suddenly, we heard the doorbell ringing. We were sure it was the police and that we were lost. Henry opened the door. He found Maria collapsed and crying. "Tell me, how could Marcus die? He wasn't going to race with you. What exactly happened there?" And we all stood next to each other and looked at her and cried. Suddenly, I found her approaching me, her eyes full of sadness and anger at the same time, and she was screaming at me, telling me, "Joe, that what happened has nothing to do with you." And of course, I couldn't say anything, and she continued her words, "Tell me this did not happen. How did he die so easily and in this horrible way? I'm not even able to see him and bid him farewell." And she broke down. What I was able to do is that I went to my room and kept breaking everything in front of me until I fell unconscious. Since then, I've been waking up screaming, "Fire! Fire!" because of the nightmare that I see every day. The doctor diagnosed my condition as an acute nervous breakdown. At first, my uncle refused to go to the psychiatric clinic because the news would not spread. But after a week of treatment, there was no improvement for my condition. On the contrary, it was getting worse. He had to take me to the clinic. Maybe there would be any improvement, and now I've been there for 3 months. Of course, the annual celebration of the parent company is past. Can you imagine that my father came to me a month after the accident? I was in the hospital. All that I remember from the conversation between us, or more accurately, the reprimand, while I was silent, all that I remember from his words is that I'm a loser son, that I did not know how to succeed, and the only thing he asked of me, I only benefited from his presence in life, and I missed an opportunity from his hand to control the largest percentage of the company's shares. He also knew about Maria's relationship with Marcus, and that I was the reason for the accident. I didn't blame myself for what I did. All he said is that even when I tried to do something right, I failed at it. And he said a lot of words. At the time, my condition still did not allow me to hear everything he said. Despite that, he didn't care about my condition. He left me and went, and since then, he didn't call me even a simple call. And at the time I was in the hospital, I did not know what was happening, and there was only one nightmare in my life. Marcus was pulling me into the fire with him while I was trying to escape, and I woke up screaming. At the time, there was an investigation about the accident and about those close to Marcus in the school. And of course, they summoned Henry, Albert, and Carter, and my condition didn't allow it at the time, and the investigation ended with the case closed. And of course, you understand who closed it so quickly. Maria traveled and moved from school. and I tried to commit suicide more than once, but in the end, I chose to punish myself by saying that I would rather live remembering my crime that destroyed the lives of many people. Imagine that in the end, I discovered that I didn't love Maria at all, and that I was just a toy in the hands of my dad, with which he fulfilled his desires and dreams, not mine. I even discovered that I don't have any specific dreams or desires in life, and after he finally abandoned me, I found my true self, and I started a new life, but my crime will remain with me for the rest of my life. It can be exposed at any time, and I and my cousins will take our punishment, the punishment we had prepared for Marcus from the beginning, without him committing any crime.
The Curse of Money. I am Andrew, 20 years old, and I have everything you can imagine, or even what you cannot imagine in life. I reach everything I dream of or desire. Life is very easy for me because everything has its cost. My life is a great pastime, betting on anything and everything. I have many friends who are ready to do anything I ask of them. If I tell them to kill, they will kill for money. One day I was at a party and I met a girl. It was the first time to see her in the city. Her name was Florence. She was different. She attracted me. I tried to get closer to her and talk to her. She rejected me. Andrew, who no one can say no to, and there is nothing he needs and cannot reach. A girl said no to him. The next day I saw her walking with another boy named John. I felt defeated for the first time in my life. I gathered my friends and told them that I have to get to this girl in any way. Bring this boy, John, here tomorrow night. And really, John came. I was holding a very big party. We all enjoyed it. At first, it was a party like any party. And then I offered him a lot of money to leave Florence. And the truth is that this was not the first time I did that. The strange thing is that John did not agree. He provoked me very much. And the thing that provoked me most about him was his self-confidence, despite his poverty. I looked at my friends and laughed, so they understood what I wanted. They beat John severely and then threw him in front of the nearest hospital. During the days he stayed in the hospital, I tried to get closer to Florence in another, kinder way, and began to attract her with my money and many gifts. She accepted all of them, but after John left the hospital, she returned to him, the time when I thought that she was mine. I felt that I was very foolish and was being laughed at by a girl I thought was different from any girl I knew. Florence knew well what she was doing, and John also refused the money because Florence could take much more, but no one could laugh at me before, and I can't leave what happened to pass normally. Among the gifts I gave to Florence was a yacht that I loved very much, and despite that, I gave it to her, hoping that she loves me. I thought that there was only one way to avenge myself. I made a plan and agreed with two of my friends to watch her and John so that they would know all their moves, and they heard them agreeing on celebrating Florence's birthday on the yacht. At that time, I decided that the last gift I would give her would be different from all the gifts I had given her before. I asked my friends to prepare a surprise for her on the yacht, a romantic dinner with lots of lights and candles. Each one of them thought that the other was the one who prepared the surprise. And because I needed this day to be remembered, I put cameras everywhere in the yacht. Exactly an hour after they were on the yacht and in the middle of the sea, I saw the yacht sinking. I heard their screams and saw their fear. My happiness was indescribable at the time. But this happiness did not complete when the police investigations began. They saw the cameras that were already damaged, but also the malfunction they found was very clear that it was fabricated. And for the first time, I found that money is unable to protect me or buy anything. My friends admitted that I was the one who brought them after being arrested by the police. I am now accused of 2 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. Of course, I am sad about my life that will be wasted in prison, but I do not regret what I did because they deserve to die. Do you think I am wrong that I avenged myself?